G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. I've got something a bit different for you guys today. For a long time now, people have been asking me what I take on my prospecting trips, and I'm just about to set out on a 4-day, 3-night trip, which I'll be leaving tomorrow morning. So I've got all the gear laid out for you guys today, and we'll go over some of the stuff that I take, and there'll be some little tips on some of the gear that I take and how I tackle some of the obstacles in what can be very challenging at times. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Now I'll just start out with the pack itself. It's nothing special, it's just a Caribbee, which I think I bought from Anaconda. It's about 75-80 litre. It is a little bit smaller than what I'd like, but there wasn't much to choose from at the time, and I was too impatient to wait for anything online. So that's the pack. It's got all the standard compartments. You can undo it from the bottom to get your sleeping bag out of the base and things like that. The fabric itself is quite water resistant, and I noticed it sort of repels the water a bit, so it's a pretty good pack. So it is a pretty good pack, and I am happy with it. My sleeping bag I keep in a 35 litre dry bag. It's a -10 sleeping bag that's in there, and all my clothes go inside that bag as well, so I'm not wasting any space on dry bags inside the pack. This is the mattress I use. It's a Thermarest. It's insanely good temperature wise. I notice the ground can be freezing cold, and I can sleep outside of my sleeping bag and my back still stays pretty warm. So I'm really happy with that one. It packs up very small. I keep my clothing simple, and that's because I spend most of my time in the wetsuit during the day, and I really only need it of a night when I'm around the campfire and in bed. So all I take is a thermal top, some Mountain Design pants. After each day sniping, I rinse out my wetsuit and I give myself a pretty good scrub, even if it's winter, after the day's out, and that keeps me relatively clean and the clothes cleaner. So I carry one jacket, which I also use as a pillow inside my dry bag of a night. This jacket my brother gave me when I started prospecting nearly 4 years ago, and it's very sentimental to me. I wear it everywhere. It's not an expensive jacket by any means. All the feathers are flopping out, but I don't even know where he got that one, but it's been one I cherish, so that goes with me. My tent's a 2-man Denali. It fits nicely in a 13 litre dry bag, but I keep the poles and pegs separate, and I just tuck them down the inside of the pack. I find that fits in much better. I carry 1 or 2 cigarette lighters in a Ziploc bag, which I keep in the top of my pack in case my other one croaks it. In this 1 litre dry bag, I've got some fire lighters, which I keep as a bit of a backup sort of thing. If it's very, very wet and I can't get a fire lit, that usually gets me out of trouble. Some toothpaste and toothbrush. Yes, I brush my teeth. I've got a toothbrush and some toothpaste, which I tuck down the side of my pack. I take a small amount of rope, which is usually handy for drying clothes or anything that gets wet. It's handy for a lot of uses. The camera equipment I use, I've got 2 GoPros, the one I'm using right now, and another one which is for underwater, which I keep in a waterproof case. I use my iPhone for a lot of those slow motion shots that you see in the bush. That's the iPhone at 120 frames. A couple of spare GoPro batteries. This one here is my little sat phone. You can send out text messages anywhere in the world. You do have to have a bit of a clearing of the canopy of the forest for the messages to send out, and I might go into more detail about this one in a future video, but yeah, that's been an excellent little unit. It's got a little SOS button, so that works as my EPIRB as well, and if anything was to go wrong, and I'd only ever use it if it was an absolute emergency. A lot of people take these out and they might have a stomach cramp or something and they set them off, and you could imagine how that frustrates the SES services and those sorts of people. So you only ever use them if you really need them, and I haven't had to use them yet, so I'm happy about that. Touch some wood on that one. Yeah, the spare cables all go up in the top there. I carry 2 power banks to recharge all the cameras and the equipment, and the larger one I can charge my phone directly on the top, so that's a good little unit. Now the drone usually ends up in a small dry bag, and that gets thrown in as well, but that doesn't always go with me because it is quite bulky. It's got a couple of the DJI batteries, and it does get quite bulky and it adds a lot of weight, so it doesn't always go with me. It probably will on this trip though. Got a small Olight headlamp which Olight provided me with, and that is good for around the camp. Now we'll move on over to my wetsuit and that sort of gear. I'll go into more detail about my particular wetsuit in another video, but for now it's a Cressy 2-piece. That'll be packed in my pack for this trip, and I'll be wearing clothes down to the river itself. So I carry that in a 20-litre dry bag. I carry wetsuit socks. These ones have had a very hard life, done a lot of Ks. I just got myself some new wetsuit booties because this trip will be pretty big, being 4 days. And the little knee pads. These are just physio knee pad things that I wear to keep the life of the wetsuit going a little bit longer, but as you can see, it's had a pretty hard life. I've got black Sikaflex all over it. Okay, the prospecting tools that I take for this trip, because I'll be doing a lot of hiking and it's over a few days, I'm keeping it very basic, no metal detectors or pans or anything like that. I do always carry a spare mask. I know I'm not the only one that's probably gotten down to the river, throwing your mask down and realise you've cracked the glass. I have done that before, and now I always carry the spare. I don't carry a spare snorkel. If I lose the snorkel, well, so be it, I have to hold my breath. One pair of gloves. This is a shovel I've been using recently. It's a pretty good thing and it folds up nice, so it's good for in the pack. I've got my Olight torch, which I use underwater. I always carry these 2 snuffer bottles. If I lose one, I've got the other. And I carry a large crevicing hook and a smaller one. Now that gear can obviously vary dramatically, but for this trip that's what I'll be taking. Sometimes I might take in the pan and the classifier, metal detector. Sometimes I might take a crowbar, depending on the bedrock and whether the gold is trapped up behind that particular bedrock. But yeah, that's the gear for this trip. For footwear around the camp, I just take a pair of thongs which I strap to the outside of my pack. Okay, I'm in the kitchen now. I'm going to show you some of the meals that will go into this particular trip. This varies trip to trip, but I'll show you what I'll take on this one. So breakfast for me ends up porridge, rolled oats. I throw a handful in a Ziploc bag. Grab some sultanas, throw a few sultanas, 1 big spoon of brown sugar, and 1 big spoon of powdered milk. All goes in the Ziploc bag and gets boiled up, and that ends up being a nice hearty breakfast. Now I'm a sweet tooth, as some of you would know. I never go anywhere without my cocoa, so I do a big spoon of cocoa, big spoon of brown sugar, and some powdered milk again, and that makes for a nice drink. And they don't take up much space in the Ziploc bag, so you just shake that up, mix it all up, and boil it up for lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever you need it for. Some of my mates even think that that's my kryptonite for my prospecting. So for my main meals of a night, it'll be 4 freeze-dried meals. I take 1 extra one just as a backup. Pretty unhealthy with lunch at the moment. I've just been doing 2-minute noodles and a bit of chocolate. Breakfast will be the 4 Ziploc bags of oats. I've actually got 5 there, 1 spare I always take because it's a good source of energy, the oats and the carbs. 4 bags of cocoa for hot drinks, and a block of chocolate because I'm an absolute sweet tooth. So yeah, that'll be it. The only other thing I haven't got here, which I normally do, is I'll have 4 little fruit cups. Just like the 2 fruits or tropical fruit in juice, and they're just little cups that go nicely in the top of my pack, and I can grab them each morning. But yeah, let me know what you guys take. I'd love to hear what you guys do for food, and maybe you can make it a bit healthier for me. Now if this wasn't a prospecting trip and it was more like a hiking trip or something like our Jane River trips, then I'd have a spare pair of pants, lightweight, very lightweight shirt, long sleeve, like a microfiber type thing. I think this one is a Columbia, yes. But I'm not a favour of any brands. It's just whatever fits good and is nice and lightweight. I usually only take 3 or 4 pairs of briefs maximum, and then I can wash 1 or 2 of those while I'm out there and dry if the weather permits. And a couple more good quality pairs of socks. I think those ones are Mountain Design, but yeah, it pays to have good socks or you end up with blisters, as Levi's learned in the past from sad experience. I'll also have my jacket, which is very lightweight, fairly waterproof, not 100% waterproof, but on trips like our Jane River one, There was no stopping the water no matter what you wore. And on those trips I used to wear this old North Face one, which was extremely strong. It never tore, but I found that it didn't breathe very well, the fabric inside of it. It was designed to be fully waterproof, and I just wouldn't breathe in that one. So this is my second one I've gone for, and so far this has been really good. It's a bit more comfortable. The material inside is different again, so that's a good jacket. And on a trip like that I would have gaiters, lots of bush bashing, off-track stuff. Even on tracks you should have those. They give you a bit of extra protection against snakes, and definitely the scrub, which can be pretty brutal here in Tasmania. The colder times of year I'll throw in a beanie. It's nice at night to put over the head if it's really cold. 3 or 4 days will usually be about a half a roll of toilet paper. The other thing I forgot to talk about was a first aid kit, which I did have in the gear. You'll see it earlier in the video, but just forgot to talk about it. But yeah, basic first aid kit. I'm not an expert on first aid. I have done the course, but it's been a lot of years, so it's good to just try and refresh yourself on that. Now for maps, I'll be honest, most of the time I'm electronic. My phone will have an app called Avenza, which is awesome for tracking all your topographies on there. But yeah, it's a very handy one to use. My little sat phone as well has basic maps on it. They also say to take the paper map as a backup, and you can't always rely on the electronics. Over the years I've only ever been sick the one time from drinking out of rivers, so I've gotten away with it. If I was going to a heavily mined area where the rivers have got contamination, that's when I do take this one, so it's handy to have. With the food as well, I always carry a couple of bottles in the side of my pack, and depending on how far it is between water stops when we're hiking out, so usually there's at least one, maybe two. Alright, so I'm going to work the miracle now of putting all this gear into the pack, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all packed away. Alright, so there you have it. I've got my wetsuit in the dry bag on the back of the pack. The camera gear is in this 13 litre, and I won't need to access that until I get down to the river. And my booties and socks go on my feet for the hike down with my clothes, and then I transfer into the wetsuit when I get down to the river. So yeah, that's how I'll be doing it this trip. There's heaps of variations on this. Sometimes the pack raft will be strapped to the back here, the wetsuit will be on once I leave the car, and I'll walk through the bush with it, as you've seen me do many times in the videos. With the camera gear, sometimes I'll use the drone bag, depending on how wet it is and whether I'm in the river or not, and I can access my cameras quicker from the front. I attach that to the front of my pack with carabiners. So yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys do. I'm sure you guys have got heaps of tips for me and ways that I can improve on what I've got there. But yeah, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully this is helpful to some of you, and yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. But thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, have a good week, and we'll see you all then.